The Ain't No Fang Podcast. From Arizona Sports, Ain't No Fang.
In one of the most memorable games in Chase Field's history, the Arizona Diamondbacks take down the Dodgers and are going to play for a pennant for the first time in 16 years. I'm Steve Zinsmeister with Alex Weiner. Back in town, you've been traveling with the team so much. They didn't even get a home game until their fifth game of the postseason, but they made it count with, like I said, one of the most memorable moments, games in Chase Field's history, and in front of 50,000 of your closest friends.
Yeah, it was a cool experience just to sort of see what it would look like, because it's against the Dodgers, and in the regular season you never know what like the ratio is going to be with the blue and the red, and it was a legit home field advantage for the Diamondbacks yesterday. It appeared. I mean, the place got really loud. We're going to talk about the third inning explosion because I thought it was going to start shaking or something, like everything was going to start like
seismic activity.
Yeah, like something like that. Like it went crazy. So Brandon Pfaadt said, who started the game, said it kind of felt like a different ballpark at points of the game. So yeah, it was kind of cool because I'd never been to a Diamondbacks postseason game at home before. So it was kind of cool to see what Chase Field looked like in that environment. And it was like a legit, this is a home field advantage. And that's something that, they'll get at least 2 more home games, maybe 3, depending on what happens in the NLCS.
Yeah, I mean, those postseason games do feel different because you're right. During a regular season game, and let's be honest about this, the D-backs don't have the best record for attendance. So when you do get a Dodgers series or a Chicago Cubs series, it is, going to be 70% their fans because we have so many people in the Valley from those areas. And the postseason's a different animal. And whether it's the Cardinals, the Suns, the D-backs, the Valley really rallies around those teams when they do get to this point. So yeah, you had a ballpark that has too many seats, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in the postseason. It's kind of a curse in the regular season at times. And you get 50,000 people who clearly love the Diamondbacks. The fact that the Dodgers were down 2-0 in the series certainly helps with attendance numbers for the D-backs fans. And just the way that they were losing, having 11 runs on them in the first game, the way that the Diamondbacks jumped on starting pitching. But yeah, let's talk about what I've been calling the inning. Yeah. In that third inning, probably really starts with the end of the second inning when Lance Lynn comes off the mound with his own little celebration, which I don't know what pitcher celebrates after the second inning is over, but lo and behold, he kind of did something a little bit.
He knew he wasn't, maybe he knew he wasn't going very long.
He did something a little bit provocative, a little bit physical. It wasn't bad necessarily, but I think the Diamondbacks team noticed it. And they come in the next inning and hit 4 solo home runs, including Gabriel Moreno hitting a foul ball that was overturned, and then he hit another one just to make it more obvious and clear to everybody. It's never been done before. I think it's probably the greatest inning that the Diamondbacks have ever had.
Ooh, that's a tough statement. I mean, obviously, Game 7. The 2001 World Series. I mean,
that's a great moment. Great complete offensive inning.
Yeah, but it took the Tony Womack double to get to the Luis Gonzalez game winner. So I feel like enough of Mariano Rivera, not Lance Lynn, who was throwing batting practice out there.
Yeah.
So maybe I would push back on that necessarily, but yeah, it's never happened before in postseason history that a team hit 4 home runs in an inning. And to get it started from Geraldo Perdomo, who had 1 home run since May, to have a power trip like that from him, I think it kind of set a little bit of a tone. And Lance Lynn, he's given up a lot of home runs this year. I think he gave up 44 home runs in the regular season. He's been prone to it. He gets some swing and miss, but he leaves pitches over the middle sometimes. And he just got crushed. That ball by Ketel Marte was just crushed. And Ketel leans back and watches it go. Christian Walker just had the quietest, I guess, home run of the inning, just because it's that's a classic Christian Walker home run. And then Moreno, it was so from the press box, you're on the first base side, so you're just kind of watching the ball go, and it goes into the bullpen, and they call it a home run. And so it's okay, I guess it was a home run. And then you look at the replay, it's oh well. Nice to come back, and then Lynn just leaves the slider that drops right perfectly over the heart of the plate. And Moreno, very next pitch that he sees, an absolute no-doubter. I mean, it was a crazy environment for it to happen in. The Dodgers end up pulling Lynn, so none of their 3 starters in the series lasted 3 innings. it was just it was the inning. It's definitely going to be like, I feel like, because obviously you mentioned like could say like the most like biggest inning of D-backs history in the postseason. I think this will be remembered as like the inning as opposed to like the moments. I feel like that you're correct in.
There are things that get labeled like that everyone just remembers. When I say the triple, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Archie Bradley's triple in the wild card game in 2017. You think to other big moments in the Valley's history, the Valley Oop, which was DeAndre Ayton, and then you've got, the Hale Murray, and, what was
we need a pun for this.
Jail Murray.
Yeah.
And so, like, the Jail Murray, I should say. Those things just get labeled, and I think this one's going to be one of them.
What would be the label then?
I'm just calling it the inning.
The inning?
I'm just calling it the inning.
Something with 4. I think something with 4.
I'll think on it.
I'll think about it.
I'll think on the branding
get back to
there.
you on this.
But as far as Gabriel Moreno's concerned, he does end up leaving the game after getting hit on the hand. I was a little curious why he kept his throwing hand in front of him to begin with, because the ball comes off the bat of Chris Taylor. I think he was trying to bunt.
He was.
And it hits Gabby in the hand. He stayed in the game initially, but they eventually took him out, replaced him with Pavin Smith, and then obviously a defensive replacement later. What is the news on Gabriel Moreno and his hand, and will it affect him going forward?
Yeah, so it's funny. After he stayed in the game, on the very next pitch, his hand was behind his back. So that might be one of those lesson learned kind of deals. X-rays were negative. That's what Torey Lovello said after the game. So he's going to be day-to-day. The NLCS doesn't start till Monday, so they have a few days off for him to heal up. A little bit of wrapping on his hand when they were jumping in the pool, but like he wasn't wearing a cast. It wasn't anything like that. And so, I think that they dodged anything serious with him. And the day-to-day, I guess, explanation kind of makes it seem like he should be good to go in 4 days. But yeah, I guess it's still something to monitor. But I think the fact that the x-rays were negative, they dodged anything serious.
Gabby has certainly taken his bumps and bruises. He took that bat on the backswing. He took the bat.
Stayed in that inning too.
Yeah, he stayed in there too. And so he's certainly been a trooper through these playoffs so far. You mentioned, again, starting pitching for the Dodgers. They got 4 2/3 innings out of their starters. Not last night. In the series, they got 4 2/3 innings from their starters, 13 earned runs, an ERA of 25, and that went down 15 earned runs last night. So that should really tell you how much trouble they were in. It's the obvious story of how the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers this time around. It was all about jumping on starting pitching early in games and then maintaining the lead throughout with their bullpen.
Let me break down exactly how the D-backs were able to beat the Dodgers here. From the words of Irvin Magic Johnson, we're all disappointed that our Dodgers didn't hit or pitch well. That's why we lost the series to the Diamondbacks. I would agree. They didn't hit or pitch well, and that's probably why they lost the series.
Good analysis there.
I think he's spot on.
We didn't score as many runs as them.
We didn't score as many runs as them, and then they lost. So, oh well. I love his tweets. They're the best.
He's like the John Madden of tweeting.
But yeah, obviously the Kershaw one stands out. To completely jump on Clayton Kershaw in that environment set the tone for the entire series, that this is not going to be like, oh, maybe they'll scrap together a couple of wins here and make this close. This is like, no, they have the guys to potentially win this thing and win it, handily, and they ended up doing that. Bobby Miller, they had a little bit of a shorter leash on him being a rookie, and their bullpen was, they have a good bullpen. And then Lance Lynn was just, they were just teeing off. So the Dodgers entered the postseason in a precarious position with the starting pitching. Walker Buehler's not back from Tommy John. Dustin May is still down. Tony Gonsolin got Tommy John this year. Julio Urias, he's on administrative leave, allegations of domestic violence. And so that's a lot of depth to lose, ultimately. And so
Syndergaard was no good.
They dealt him for Ahmed Rosario. So from where they were at the start of the season, what the outlook was for by the playoffs, Buehler will be back and Kershaw will be healthy, and Urias will have a big part in this whole thing. It just completely flipped, and the Diamondbacks took full advantage. And it takes a lot of to be the Diamondbacks, this young team who hasn't been on the stage before, against the Dodgers team that's here every single season and going up against Kershaw of all people in Game 1. It took a lot of maturity, and it was pretty impressive to see what they were able to do as far as putting together at-bats, providing some slug, but also grinding some out to set up the players who provided some slug. That was less so the case in Game 3. That was just 4 bombs that took everybody by surprise, I think. So but like just in the first couple of games, they set themselves up to score, and they were able to get it done.
Creating the chaos that we talk about, but not necessarily in the way that we thought.
Yeah.
We thought that this team, like they did all season long, would do most of their offensive scoring by getting on base any way they could, swiping a bag here and there,
kind of like
sacrificing.
Game 2, a little bit.
Yeah, and then moving guys over and playing small ball essentially and winning games that way. And I figured if they were going to beat the Dodgers, they were going to have to do that in at least a handful of games. They didn't have to do it at all. That doesn't mean they didn't steal bases. I think they still had like 6 swipe bags in the series. They were still effective in those ways. But like you said, when you hit 13 home runs in the postseason right now, which is the most of any team, but the team was 22nd in baseball in home runs during the regular season. The Dodgers had over 200 home runs. The D-backs only had 166. The Braves had almost double the home runs that the D-backs did. And look where the Braves are at right now, and we'll talk about them in a second. I think it was notable to what the Diamondbacks pitchers were able to do against the Dodgers' best hitters. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are both former MVPs. They've won World Series. They're going to be Hall of Famers, in my opinion. Yeah. And so to face those two guys as many times as they did in the series, and for them to have as little success as possible, I don't think you could have drawn it up any better. I think they only had the one hit, and it was because Zach Gallen didn't cover first base. And so it could not have gone worse for the Dodgers' 2 best hitters.
They could have gone 1 for 21. Or 0 for 21. They did go 1 for 21. They did go 1 for 21. They could have gone 0 for. And, Torrey, after the game yesterday, talked about like the plan worked, about, not giving them the same looks and kind of adjusting per at bat and what they're seeing. And part of that's also catching them at the right time, and which they did. I mean, there wasn't even a ton of hard hit balls. Freeman barreled up a couple that got caught, but really that was it amongst the both of them. They're both going to finish in the top 4 of the National League MVP race, maybe 3, depending on what happens with Matt Olson. Ronald Acuna will probably win. But it's so, and that was the big advantage that the Dodgers had going into the series, is that they had a 2-headed monster that could wreck the series on its own. And they didn't, and that put a lot more pressure on the rest of the lineup. And it's not the same Dodgers deep lineup that we've seen from some of these teams. Will Smith is very good. JD Martinez, and healthy, has had very good stretches this year. Max Muncy, ton of power there. But it put a lot more emphasis on, okay, they're going to have to pull this thing through if the Stars aren't getting it done. While the Diamondbacks on the other side got production from everybody in the lineup. 8 out of the 9 hitters in the Diamondbacks lineup hit a home run. Or have hit a home run this postseason, I should say.
That's remarkable.
Evan Longoria is the only one, and he had a RBI double in Game 1 off of Kershaw in the first inning.
And when you consider their age, outside of Longoria, this is one of the youngest teams to have this level of success. Gabriel Moreno has 3 home runs. He's the first catcher ever 23 or younger to have 3 home runs in the postseason.
Yeah. Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, and Gabriel Moreno are the 3 youngest Diamondbacks ever to home run in the postseason. And Geraldo Perdomo is also 23. I'd have to look up the days, too, because they may be the 4 youngest. I didn't check after last night, but they might be the 4 youngest Diamondbacks to ever homer in the postseason. They're all 23 years old. That's
what's really uplifting about this, too. I never felt 2017 happened, right? And they go to the postseason, but your best player, for all intents and purposes, was JD Martinez in the second half of that season. He was the best player in baseball for a while. We kind of knew he was leaving. We knew it was a rental trade. We knew that he would probably get offered a bunch of money in free agency. So it didn't feel like that 2017 team could really carry over super well to 2018. They were dealing with the Paul Goldschmidt stuff at that time. And so they didn't have a lot of carryover. This team is set for the long haul. They have a core that they can build around. Will Longoria be around forever? No. Will Christian Walker's in his 30s? Do they have to figure out his contract? Sure. Do they need to figure out what they do with Zach Gallen long term? Yeah, sure. There's some question marks. But for the most part, they've got a young core, especially offensively and defensively, I guess, where you've got Corbin Carroll locked up for a long time. Perdomo is still young. Ketel Marte's contract situation, I think, is fine for the time being.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah.
They have the outfield, other than Lourdes Gurriel is available in the offseason. I think Tommy Pham as well. Mm-hmm. But they have a young core that could be around for a long time, and that's really encouraging. No matter what the outcome is in this postseason, you could still feasibly see these guys being in contention for a playoff spot for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and a big deal of this season, not only just making the postseason and going on this run to the NLCS, but knowing that they have blue chippers. and they do. Corbin Carroll is going to be the face of the franchise for a long time. We'll see exactly what the future is like for Alek Thomas, but as a defensive stalwart and somebody who can hit righties pretty well, and that's somebody that they're probably going to be able to rely on. Gabriel Moreno is the catcher for as long as he's there, as long as he wants. Obviously Zach Gallen is somebody to consider as far as long term, but like he has proven that he is a top end, ace of a staff and has stepped up big time in this postseason. So that was a big deal going into the season is sort of where they're at with some of the younger players. And I think even guys who didn't have like great full seasons, like a Brandon Pfaadt, like there was enough there. It's like, okay, there's some optimism here going forward. And now, if they want to go out and address third base or grab another veteran starting pitcher, they know where their sort of like hot spots are and what's kind of next. So that's encouraging as far as being able to build a sustainable team. And who knows, maybe Jordan Lawler's great next year. Maybe he's great in 2 years. Maybe Ivan Melendez, strikes out less and comes back and brings a ton of power to the mix in a couple of years. So I don't know. It does. You're right. It does feel like this is something they can build off of. But MLB's funny. You never know.
Yeah, you never know when your moment is going to strike. You talked about Zach Gallen being an absolute ace. I think this team has two legitimate aces right now, and the rest of the league may not view Merrill Kelly the same way they do Gallen, but I think the way that they've both performed in the postseason and leading into the postseason, they absolutely are almost equals in my mind right now. I trust them almost equally. Gallen went, let's see, what was the order in this series? Kelly went one, Gallen went two. You've got 5 days off between last night and Monday for game one, whether it's Philadelphia or Atlanta. Who would you prefer to start in game one? Is it Merrill Kelly just because it's been the longest since he's pitched?
I would guess so.
Or would you want to bump up Zach Gallen because maybe he is viewed as the ace of the ball club?
Yeah, Lovello always kind of calls him 1A, 1B. I feel like with Merrill, it's going to be a pretty long time since he's pitched. So maybe when it gets to that point, it doesn't even matter, and you can just kind of line it up. I don't know. It depends how they view that. If they would rather get Merrill in there quicker, just so he's not waiting for too long, then I understand that. If they feel like it's long enough anyway, let's just get Gallen, Kelly, Pfaadt in there, then that also makes some sense. It's going to be a little bit different than the NLDS because in the DS, they had game one, day off, game two, day off, game three. That's not going to be the case. It's going to be games 1 and 2 are back-to-back, day off, game 3, 4, and 5 are all on consecutive days, day off, and then they move, if it goes that long, then, the next 2 games. But so that's going to impact a little bit as far as like who can pitch in what games. So like, let's say it's Gallen in game 1 and Kelly in game 2, Pfaadt in game 3. By game 4, is that enough rest for the top? It's not normal rest. I think it would be 1 day short of normal rest.
You could probably go game 1 and game 4 in a series. You could probably pull that off.
It'd be a little bit short rest, but they would also have had extended rest leading up to it. So I don't know how they want to match that, but as far as the order of things, I don't know. It's not a horrible problem to have.
Yeah, and with Torey Lovullo being aggressive in his going to the bullpen when he does, you could pitch, let's say you throw Merrill Kelly in game 1, and then you throw him again in game 4. In game 4, you might not expect him to go 6 innings. You might expect to get 4 1/3, or maybe you do get to 5. And so maybe they
would have
the
some
bullpen a little
unbelievable
earlier.
Facial expressions on camera from Merrill Kelly if they try to get him.
Oh, believe me, I understand that. But the expectation, you understand, because Torey Lovullo didn't have to pull Brandon Pfaadt last night. He was 4 1/3 in. He only had 2 hits. I mean, he was practically untouchable for the most part. He had just given up a hit, I think, to Will Smith, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, double.
But I think at that point, a lot of people questioned, okay, should we really be pulling this kid who's been fantastic tonight and going to the bullpen? It worked out. Joe Mantiply comes in. He picks him up. Mantiply's been really good in the postseason as well. The whole bullpen
He's been good
really
down the stretch. In September, Mantiply was very good too.
Yeah. So listen, I don't want to second guess Torey Lovullo. In the moment, I thought to myself, you could have left him in, and it would have been justified. And who knows what would have happened?
Kind of the Kevin Cash syndrome. It's like, what if the bullpen comes in and blows it? But
that's the thing.
The bullpen's been really good, and
yeah.
They're playing the matchups that they don't want Pfaadt to get in. I guess how to explain it was he explained it like they want to stop momentum. That was like the big deal as far as handling the pitching throughout this series, is stopping momentum in its tracks. Will Smith hits a double. It's kind of the Dodgers' first sign of life offensively, really. A couple of hard hit balls didn't lead to anything in the first inning, and then from there, Pfaadt was terrific. The double from Will Smith. You have a matchup that you like with Manaply, and just like stopping it there. Fott did his job. Dirk fully gassed up. Just kind of let the relievers go from there. I think that's probably the biggest thing more than anything.
It was also a little bit of chess by Torey Lovello.
Sure. You want to flip guys around, and he did that to an extreme in game 2 with taking out Zach Gallen at 84 pitches to basically empty the Dodgers bench of right-handed bats to get them all in a row and take away a little bit of flexibility there.
Well, that sets up for the end of the game pretty beautifully, considering your 7th inning guy, 6th and 7th inning guy, really, Ryan Thompson, has been throwing in 4 out of the 5 postseason games. Kevin Ginkel's right-handed. He gets the 8th most games. And then Paul Sewald. Those are 3 right-handed pitchers. So if you can set it up by the 5th or 6th inning where the other team's entire lineup is going to be right-handed, that sets up pretty nicely for the end of the game. So I did like that strategy from Torey Lovello, especially if you have leads early in the game. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right, I don't know what else was there to cover. It must have been one of the most amazing nights at the ballpark. I was here in studio, unfortunately, but man, just watching on TV was remarkable for the history of the Diamondbacks organization. It just felt like one of those major moments.
Absolutely. I mean, to go up against the Dodgers and sweep them on your home field in a series where they never trailed. It was a full end-to-end. They dominated the series with this young team, with that crowd. It did feel like a huge moment in the sort of for the franchise. We'll see what it looks like in the next series, I guess, if you want to go over their options. They're playing either the Phillies or the Braves.
We're going to find out tonight.
Game 4.
We could find out tonight.
Game 4 is tonight on Thursday, as we're recording this. Game 5 would be Saturday. So it's one of those things. Like if the series goes to Saturday, it's like, the Diamondbacks have 5 days off. If
I had to pick between the two teams, like the way that they're playing right now, the Braves have not been hitting well. I think they're hitting 177 in the postseason right now. But that lineup,
Nola was terrific.
You know how good that lineup is on their best day, and so Atlanta's certainly never out of this thing until the final whistle blows. I guess that's a bad metaphor because there's no whistles in baseball, but. The Phillies have just been destroying baseballs. Bryce Harper can take over an entire postseason on his own. Trey Turner's been fantastic over the last 2 or 3 months. JT Realmuto has been really, really good. So Bryson Stott's hitting almost 300 in the postseason. That's not a lineup that I want to face right now. And like you said, the Phillies have dominant pitchers as well, kind of comparable to their top end of the rotation is similar to what the Diamondbacks have. I don't think I want to face either of them, but if I had to pick, I guess I'm hoping for an Atlanta comeback.
Really? You'd rather face the Braves?
I think so, just the way that they're playing right now, but the only way that they make it to the next series is if they play really, really well over the next 2 games, and that would be a heck of momentum to going into the
16 errors in Game 4 from the Phillies, an ugly win. Go back to Atlanta. Nobody feels good about it. Something like that.
I guess, but yeah, I mean, Philadelphia, you look at what they've toppled the Braves. They did it last year, so... the teams
dangerous.
that beat the best teams are tough too.
They were really, really good in the second half of the season, and a lot of their guys turned it on at the right times going into the postseason. They're hot. It's a hot team. That would be both teams, obviously. The Diamondbacks will be underdogs, obviously, have the 6th seed in the National League against either team. Both of those teams have playoff pedigree. Both the teams have been to the World Series the last couple of seasons, so it's definitely going to be another huge challenge, but as long as the D-backs continue to play clean baseball, get what they're getting out of their bullpen, and just get the timely hit, then, I don't know, baseball's weird. You never know.
Whoever they end up playing, they should probably be sweating the Diamondbacks a little bit because they have the hottest bats in the game right now. The pitching has been really, really good, the starters in particular, but the bullpen has been fantastic. So whether it's the Phillies or the Braves, we'll find out here in the next couple days. It's a series that I'm sure will be one of the most exciting that D-backs fans have gotten to watch in many years. Hey, for Alex Weiner, I'm Steve Zinsmeister. We really appreciate you checking out the Ain't No Fang podcast here at Arizona Sports.